Yeah, yes, it's Tuesday because Thursday is Juneteenth, so we're off.
Oh, that's okay, so it's the 17th, we have full.
And there's gonna be Ways and Means right before that.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna be out of town.
Yeah, they're gonna be, that's the library settlements.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So, what's the make the motion?
Yes.
Okay.
So, going.
Oh, thank you.
You-
Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Committee on Public Services. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Kinlock has requested an excuse. Commissioner Clemente.
Here.
Commissioner Baydoun. Commissioner Palomero.
Here. Here.
Chair Mareki,
Here,
you have a quorum present.
thank you. Okay, next item.
B, Chairwoman's remarks.
I have none. Next item.
C, approval of the May 20th, 2025 meeting minutes.
So moved. Support.
We have an approval and support. Any questions, changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ooh. Maybe I'm talking too fast.
D, unfinished business. There is none listed.
Okay, and before we go to the next item, I just want to welcome Commissioner Wilson and Commissioner Dobb to the meeting today. Next item.
Item 1, under new business, forwarding the April 2025 report of all complaint calls made to 1-888 road crew.
All right, any questions on this, comments? We're going to take everything at the end. We don't have our tablets today, so we'll do a roll call at the end of the agenda. Next item.
Item 2, requesting commission approval of a contract with the Michigan Department of Transportation for road improvements along Middlebelt Road from Joy Road to Plymouth Road in the city of Livonia.
All right, this is MDOT. It's pretty cut and dry. Any questions on this? All right, next item.
Item 3, requesting commission approval of a 3-year purchase order with 2 one-year options to renew with Truck and Trailer Specialties for Scorpion attenuator parts for the Department of Public Services Equipment Division.
Okay, Act 51 monies. Any questions on this one? All right. Next item.
Item 4, requesting commission approval of the proposed sewage disposal rates for the Rouge Valley Sewage Disposal System.
Okay, is there someone here on this item? Morning.
Good morning. Elmika Steele, Deputy Director, Wayne County Department of Public Services.
You?
Good morning, Jessica Kenyon, with MMB DPS Finance.
Okay. Why don't you tell us about this?
Sure, so this is the proposed sewage disposal system rates for the Rouge Valley system. There's 13 communities that we bill for use of the Rouge Valley sewage disposal system. This package is from 23-24, and it has a monthly fixed charge of about 4.8 million.
Okay, so this is back in 23.
Yes, so
And we're just approving it now?
Yes.
And why would that be? And then what happens to it is a decrease.
There's a decrease.
So what happens with the communities that have been doing this for 2 years, just tell me.
Okay. So we bill the commission approved rate. So once this goes to full board and it's approved, we will go back and issue a credit since you mentioned this is a decrease. So there's a slight decrease in rate. So we'll issue a credit for everything that they were overbilled for the time period from the last package until now. And so the 23-24 rates are going to be in effect through FY25, and then new rates will go in effect FY26.
Okay, this is a credit or you actually give them?
This will be a credit to the invoice they owe. So it'll just be an adjustment so they receive a monthly invoice and there'll be a credit for a one-time credit for the amount we over.
So do you have an example? Like we have the municipalities listed. Do you have an example of what somebody would be getting a credit for? Like what kind of an amount?
Yes, so I have it here. So for example, Dearborn Heights would be getting a $56,000 credit. Garden City's about 30,000, Inkster's 33,000, and so on. We can provide you a snip of that if you'd like.
Okay, that'd be great. Are they all aware that this is going on?
Yes, we met with the communities, or my team met with the communities in early April, and I'll be meeting with them actually next week.
Okay, and why did this take so long to adjust? I know it can't go into effect till the commission.
It's a fair question. Yes, we had staffing turnover in our area, lack of resources to complete the package. It's a complex, you guys received the 12, 13 page packet. It's a complex package. It requires a lot of analysis and took some time getting staff up to speed on how to execute.
And Chairman Recchi, if I could just chime in. So on the DPS side, there's a new director of M&B DPS Finance, Alicia Baker Giles. We definitely have had conversations with her. She's committed that going forward, the DPS Finance team will be more prompt on, getting the rates adjusted and the packets completed. And as a matter of fact, for the new rate that would take effect July 1, there's a meeting scheduled. Is it next week, Jessica?
Yeah, it's next
Okay.
Wednesday. We'll be going over the 25-26 rates.
So
and-
that's getting presented to the customer. So she's definitely committed that they'll be back on track.
Okay, and when these municipalities are notified of this, that's it. They have no say in their own.
We meet prior to bringing the rates to you so they can provide us feedback and we can make adjustments as necessary.
That's
Okay,
correct.
so that's where it ends. They don't go to the public and do.
Right. This
Changes.
isn't like public notice, but the rate payers, the communities, 'cause
Yeah.
we bill them directly.
Yep.
So they do have an opportunity to weigh in, review the packet, submit questions, and if there are adjustments that are needed, those are made.
Okay, any questions on this? All right, well, I guess you won't be collecting some of those monies for a while, huh? With $30,000 credit, that type of thing. So, all right, anything else? Okay, thank you. Next item.
Item 5, requesting commission approval of Amendment 1 to a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options to renew with Concrete Cutting and Breaking Co. to amend Appendix B and to continue providing concrete cutting services on an as-needed basis.
Questions on this? Okay. Next we go to the addenda.
Moving to the addenda, item 6. forwarding an emergency procurement report for a contract with Brunoco Plumbing LLC for the urgent repair of the heat cable and installation on the piping in the autopsy room at the medical examiner's office.
Okay, on these next items, if someone can come up for both of them. Morning.
Good morning. Gregory Hurst, Director of Facilities Management and Planning.
I have to figure out how to work this.
Just lightly touch it.
Good morning. Freddie Williams, Senior Capital Projects Executive for
Okay.
Facilities.
Good morning.
Arthur Walker, Procurement Director, Management and Budget Department.
Okay, so you're here for both these items, correct?
Facilities is here for number 6.
Okay, not for number 7. All right. Okay, tell us about this and well, start with this.
Sure.
Start going.
To the chair, I'll start with this one. So happy to report that this is actually, we consider kind of a gateway project to allow us to do some of the much needed renovations at the medical examiner's office. When I came on board in 23, one of the larger projects that we had and that we are currently working on are the renovations that have been, much needed for the MEO building. And one of the things that kind of held us back from conducting a lot of those renovations, or the major part, was the issue of taking care of what we had were potential freezing pipes in the operation room where the autopsies take place. As a matter of fact, a couple of years ago, it was thought that we would have to shut down operations and maybe even find a site off-site to conduct those operations, or even up to building an annex to keep Wayne County's operations for autopsies going while we renovated the building. One of the things that we did, and that's where this is going to tie into, is when Ferdy came online in the department, we basically got a second opinion on, do we need to shut down the operations in that space in order to fix the problems of freezing pipes that we had in extreme temperatures previously during the winter. The good news is we were able to find a company to come in and do an analysis and actually help guide us to a solution so that we don't have to, at this point, we're moving forward with not an annex space for us to conduct autopsies. So this was, in our opinion, it was an emergency because we knew we were entering the winter season, the freezing seasons, and once you get to those negative temperatures, we were at risk of pipes freezing. Therefore, we could have had a potential shutdown, which we could not afford. And so what I'll do is I'll turn it over to Ferdy to kind of discuss the timeline and how we got Brunoco involved and where we are and why this is here with you today.
Thank you.
So we brought in, we brought in Brunoco because they had a strategy of repairing the pipes within the wall without shutting down operations. And it was a phased approach where they would shut down there was 8 stations that was impacted by these freezing pipes. And their strategy was to shut down each station completed before moving on to the next, which allowed operations to continue on the other stations. And so this took 5-6 weeks to complete. That work is done. Everyone is happy and satisfied, and I think we averted, we saved money, but not building this addition for operations, but we also allowed the autopsy staff to continue their work, and they're pretty happy with the space.
Okay. So usually we don't see an emergency procurement with something like this unless it's an emergency. So are you saying it's completely fixed now? They don't have to worry about any frozen pipes for next year?
It is completely fixed now.
And
yes.
that couldn't have been like through the bidding process to come to this committee and then to the full board?
Well, as stated earlier, Greg stated earlier, we were approaching those winter months. If those pipes burst during that time, it would shut down operations, which we couldn't afford to do. So in that sense, we saw it as an emergency.
Okay.
And so if I may, I want to, there's another component. And when I said we had a company come in, we were working with previously with an architectural firm where we were advised that we would need to do to have the annex or find an additional space. And we were moving towards that way while at the same time, Ferdy and I were looking at, is there an alternative way to do this? So it was the timeline from when we got the secondary firm in the fall last year. We were able to get them in the fall, develop a plan of action prior to January, so that we could get into the building, take care of this before we had any issues. It was so to avert a potential freezing, which we've had before. We decided this would be an emergency, and at the time, we could not go through the normal procurement process and to move forward without risking going through the winter months, through those freezing months of December, January, February, and early March.
So how many years has this freezing pipe issue been going on in the Corners building?
To my knowledge, I believe we've had one occurrence within the last 2 years since I've been here. So I believe either the winter before I began, I believe it's the winter before I began. And we knew that there's a larger renovation package that needed to be completed. However, that was paused because it was, like I say, it was the understanding at the time was that this work could not physically be done without shutting down the entire area. So our issue is, depending on where that freezing point could have happened, it could have shut down one to all of the stations, and we didn't want to risk to have those operations shut down with us being the only medical examiner's office for the county.
Okay. All right. Just like I noted, we usually see something that's like truly an emergency that comes through us for an emergency procurement. But go ahead. Oh, yeah, I was going to call on legal counsel and ask for her input.
So through the chair to this honorable body, while we can appreciate the urgent nature of wanting to fix and avoid a flooding or pipe bursting, you have delegated authority under the procurement ordinance to avoid, as far as emergencies, in an effort to address emergencies, right? Not to anticipate something that could happen and then go out and avoid the normal process. That is not the intent of the ordinance, and this is the first time that I'm aware of that it's been used in such a manner. So it does not appear, and I'm of the opinion that that is not the intent behind the ordinance, and that was not an appropriate use as far as an emergency. Again, understanding is important, but there are other methods as far as immediate consideration and other things that potentially could have been done to speed up that time frame. But emergency procurements are not intended to say something might happen. I mean, the county is responsible for a lot of responsibilities, whereas environmental roads, where things could happen, but those are not emergency procurements. An emergency is when it occurs and we have to immediately address it, and you cannot come to this body in an effort to do so because we want to avoid catastrophes, life, property, whatever. So in this instance, the anticipation of something could happen was not a qualification for an emergency procurement in this instance. So this should have come through some other process. And again, there are other ways to speed up that procurement process. The purchasing director could have avoided RFPs and done some other things potentially to actually get this addressed. But in this instance, because the pipes had not burst, there was no real emergency to address, and this should not have been an emergency procurement.
Okay, thank you. And something like an immediate consideration might have been a little bit more appropriate with something like this.
Right, or even potentially, depending on the nature of what it was, maybe even an exigent approval because, you know, something is because you want to avoid, well, I don't even know if that would have qualified, so don't let me say that. But yes, I think there could have been potentially other ways like immediate consideration to speed up that process in an effort to address this type of situation.
Okay. Did you have a question, Melissa? So I guess you see where we're coming from here. So hopefully if anything like this happens again, something can be done like differently, because we have to receive and file this as it is right now. So just for your information and how we think.
So, Commissioner, if I may.
Sure.
Mr. Hurst and his team did present those facts to me, and I did consider the situation to be a dire situation. I will say that for those situations where it looks like there's something imminent might happen, that we believe is in the county's best interest to act in those situations, so we can avoid things if we have reason to believe that those things are going to happen. What I did not want to happen, based on the conditions from the experts in the field, what I didn't want to happen is that those pipes burst in the wintertime.
Right.
I thought it was a more prudent
Yeah.
course to take when they presented those.
And I understand that. I'm sure everybody understands that. But again, there's other ways to do it too, with immediate consideration or exigent approval, which would go to the chair. And then I'm sure it would have come to us at full board. So,
Okay, we will in the future consider those alternatives.
thank you. Oh,
Through the chair, just for clarification, you set the rules for what an emergency procurement is. So it's not really a discretionary matter for the administration. It's very clear. You have water, you have road flooding, you have certain things that happen that are clear emergencies because they're occurred. And this body in those instances has said, we will allow you to enter into contracts and expend funds before you come to this body. It's not discretionary, I guess is what I'm saying. So it shouldn't be open for interpretation. So if there's some misunderstanding about how this is written, then we can obviously address that. I mean, we didn't even have emergency procurements happen in this county for the most part until COVID. And now it seems that since COVID, they're becoming more and more popular or reoccurring when they never happened, but prior to that. So I think that if we have to have some internal discussions to make sure everybody's on the same page, we can do so. If we have to revise your ordinance to make sure the intent is clear, if it's no longer clear, we can do so. But this body sets those standards and it's not discretionary for the administration.
appreciate that. Thank you. Commissioner Clemente.
And I think just another point to make is the PO was dated January 22nd. We didn't get it until April and now it's June. So I think there's a lot of things that need to be kind of cleaned up here.
And I think an internal discussion would be great, probably for everyone. All right, anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item.
Item 7, forwarding notification of an emergency procurement report for a 3-year contract with Williams Scotsman for the delivery, installation, and rental of 3 mobile trailers at the Wyoming, Goddard, and New Boston yards for the Department of Public Services Roads Maintenance Division.
Okay, someone on this. Good morning.
Steve Shea, Division Director, DPS Roads Maintenance.
Michelle Yancey, DPS Admin.
And Arthur Walker, Procurement Director, Management and Budget.
Okay, thank you. And please tell us about this.
So, Commissioners, this is, DPS Roads Division is seeking an emergency procurement with Will Scott mobile trailers as needed for our safety and welfare of our personnel. The reason for that is at District 1, which is Wyoming Yard, it was found there was asbestos in the building, both in the walls and the floors, and possibly there were fibers flying in the airspace. So this is one of the reasons that we needed that trailer at District 1. And the same condition, not so much asbestos in Goddard Yard, which is our District 5 in Southgate. The building over there, I guess it's aging building. The roof is leaking on the west side of the building. It's not very good condition. There is no heat in that. So this is a major concern for us and the welfare of our personnel. And the third one is over in New Boston Yard, where exists an old 1980 mobile trailer that's in disarray, falling apart, no heat, no weatherproof, leaking through that. It's a hazard working conditions for our personnel. So we decided to go ahead to try to rent these mobile trailers to house our personnel in there until we can go ahead and get and complete the fixes regarding all three sites.
Okay. Does anybody want to ask a question before I start? Okay, it looks like from our, wait, did someone say yes? No, it looks like from our information that the PO wasn't issued till March 26th of 2025.
Yes.
However, there were 3 dates that were mentioned, the 3 incidences that you mentioned. So it was April of 2024, June of 2024, and the fall of 2024, and the PO wasn't done till March of 2025. So my question is, how, if all these problems were identified, why was this an emergency procurement? I mean, there was plenty of time to do the trailer thing and go forward with that. So that's my question.
So from an
Is that-
emergency point of view,
Mhm.
if you have asbestos fibers,
Mhm.
which is very dangerous to the public health as well as our employees, so we had to actually act real quick in getting something in place, but that takes time, we sealed up the entire second floor up in the District 1, but there still is opportunity of fibers flying around. So it was still a concern, a hazard concern. So, and also, I will mention that this happened under different leadership in the past when we did the paperwork. Now that we have new leadership in place, we're able to move it forward.
Okay, yeah, I guess my point is if somebody saw asbestos and got the trailer the next morning, but that's not
That's not happening.
by
Had to
any
go
means.
through
So
that.
again, it's kind of like the last item. Does anybody else want to put their thoughts in, Michelle?
My main concern is, Commissioners, is the health and safety of our people. And we tried to act as quickly as we can. As you know, sometimes these things take a while to put the paperwork through, to go ahead and solicit the trailers, and it has to go through procurement, and we had to create quotes. And I mean, we acted as fast as we can.
Right, and I guess that's the problem with some of this is with the discussion of the last item.
Yeah.
Same thing, it's a long time before the emergency was taken care of. And like Felicia has mentioned, usually an emergency is a flooding that happens on a road and we need something that day to get in. And if you would like to put any more into this.
I will.
Felicia.
And I think that's part of the problem. We don't want to mitigate the harmful nature of asbestos, or you saying that walls or mold or something to that nature. But when it takes a year or 6 months to address it, then it's hard to know how it fits within your authorization of emergency because it took a year or 6 months. If it was a true emergency, you don't need quotes. You don't have to do all of the paperwork, and that's the point of it. You go out, you pick a vendor, you get a trailer within 2 or 3 days, and you get the staff out if it's truly harmful to their health. It doesn't take a year or 6 months. If it took a year or 6 months and you had time to get quotes, you had time to go through a regular process to come to this body in order to seek approval. But I think what's more problematic in this instance is that they did a 3-year contract. Your emergency authorization is to address that immediate need and concern. It is not a long-term plan to enter into a 3-year contract without commission approval. It should have been a very short-term item, or better yet, the usual process with a 3-year item, right? That we could have sped up through processes, other avenues within the ordinance. But if it was truly an emergency, get a quick 6-month lease or something, and then come to the commission for authorization for your long-term needs. 3 years is nowhere near acceptable under the emergency procurement authorization. We've had this conversation with departments and procurement in the past with all procurements, even when they automatically set the fiscal year end date as September 30th. That is not the intent. The intent is to address the immediate need, the immediate emergency, and then come through the commission for the long-term fix or plan. So this, in my opinion, violated the ordinance on several ways, because again, if it was urgent, it should have been immediately addressed. But if you can wait a year, you had time to come to this body. If you can wait 6 months, you had time to come to this body. If it was a 1980s trailer, well, you knew for a long time that you needed a trailer, you could have had time to come to this body. But more importantly, even if you determined something happened where you couldn't, to do a 3-year contract under emergency procurement is nowhere near the intent of the ordinance or authorization that you give procurement in order to issue items without your approval.
So anybody else, procurement, do you have anything to add?
I will acknowledge that that's a long time for the rental of the trailers. I will say, in terms of the asbestos, at the time that the emergency was presented to procurement, the situation was that there was asbestos there. So there was a need to act in that sense. It doesn't excuse past actions, but it is the situation as presented. And
Yeah,
we
except
do
it took
have
over a year to really get it settled anyway. So everybody was in there, or they were working on that. But I just think there needs to be some communication between our legal staff and whoever, procurement or departments or something. So, I mean, we have 2 of these today, which is, I've never seen anything quite like this. So I know Felicia's
Madam Chair.
willing to be part of that. Yes.
My apologies. Nellie Lee from Corporation Counsel's office. My apologies for not appearing in person today, but thank you for providing the Zoom link. I wanted to just say a few things when the opportunity is available regarding these emergency contracts.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. In Corporation Counsel's office, as well as Commission Counsel, have had discussions, especially with these 2 contracts before you today. We are working with the stakeholders to fully understand the strict parameters of an emergency contract and to explore just what Ms. Johnson had indicated, that there are other avenues other than emergency contract. And we understand that those are to be used very sparingly and in a true emergency as described under the ordinance. So we are working with, on the executive side with our departments to make sure that those fit within and if there are emergencies, that those do indeed fit within the parameters. And we'll continue to have conversations on our side as well as with Commission, who has been a great partner in this. So I just wanted to assure the Public Services Committee that we understand the questions that these 2 contracts raise, what the lessons learned, and moving forward, that we will make sure that we stay within those parameters and keep the conversation going.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Yeah, thank you. Felicia, do you have anything else to say? Commissioners, anything? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item.
We need a motion for items
Yes.
1 through 7, with items 1, 6, and 7 being received and filed, and 2 through 5 approval items.
Okay, motion.
I'll make the motion.
Support.
All right, we have a motion to approve the items to move on to full board and support. Any other comments before we vote? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Clemente,
Yes.
Commissioner Baydun,
Commissioner Baydun just temporarily left for a second. Just noticed that. 3. Then yeah, we don't have a quorum.
We have one.
we do, we do.
Oh, yeah, we do 3.
Yeah, we still have one.
Sorry.
Okay, we made a motion for items 1 through 7, and we're going through the votes. Commissioner Baidoon,
Yes.
Commissioner Palomero,
Yes.
Chair Mareki.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item.
Moving back to the agenda, F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
I've heard of none. Next item.
G, public comments.
Anyone here in this room that would like to address the Committee on Public Services, please come forward. You have 2 minutes. Okay. Madam Clerk, any emails?
No emails are received.
Okay, anybody on Zoom that you see?
No hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, and anybody on the phone that would like to address the Committee on Public Services? Again, you have 2 minutes. Okay, seeing and hearing no one. Next item.
Adjournment.
So moved. Support.
All right, we are now adjourned.